Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for June 2022. So on Tuesday, the 21st, we have a pretty significant event taking place. We have the sun moving out of Gemini, moving into Cancer season. Cancer season activates, triggers, ushers in our solstice energy. In the Northern Hemisphere and the Southern Hemisphere, at this particular point in time, the day is equal to night. Energetically speaking, this gives us a brand new playing field where things are equal, where we're anchoring in some of the choices, decisions, options, paths that we were debating through Gemini season. It was all about taking it up into the mental plane, sorting out the circumstances, how it is that we thought about things, because of course we had to feed off of trying to clean up the mess of eclipse season. The solstice energy, although, we're in this one day where day and night are equal, where the energy of the sun illuminating our new path is equal to our unconscious, emotional, intuitive selves guiding us on the path forward. Collectively speaking, we are all in a situation, being in 2022, this is the year of 6, this is the year of perfecting, this is the year of reanalyzing, restructuring, reorganizing our day-to-day lives. The people that we have in our lives right now are only in our lives because we have done the reevaluation in our lives to see what it is that they actually provide us with, what they contribute to our lives. Eclipse season should have rattled up situations and relationships that would remove people that are proving to be a blockage, a challenge, an obstacle for you to actually bust free from the conditioning of your egoic self in order to actually align with your higher purpose. We collectively are all going through certain situations, trying to really redefine what makes us happy, what provides us with safety, security, what is the bare minimum, the bare basics of what it is that we need in our physical realms in order to actually feel safe, secure, and stable, regardless of what's going on in the physical circumstances, because we've done the inner work in our inner realm. The solstice energy is highly potent, very, very palpable. This is essentially when we are locking in the next level of the video game, when we are essentially locking in the new elements, the new anchors that need to kind of be rooted into our physical earth in order for us to continue to experiment with new elements, new people, new places, new roles, new responsibilities. And if you've been listening to the daily energy forecast, and if you listened to the ascension forecast for this week, you would know that the solstice energy initiates a time of experimentation from now until the Lionsgate portal, when we're gifted with another opportunity, another choice point to level up, to basically jump timelines, jump storylines, jump soul contracts, or whether or not we're going to figure out what it is that we've been dabbling in from now until then is enough to sustain us, enough to keep our interest, what is working for us, what is not working for us, and what it is that we're going to alter, and what it is that we're going to reorganize in our lives in order for that to become a solid foundation for us to build upon. So that is the solstice part of the energy. The Cancer energy, because of course, the sun moving into Cancer is what triggers the solstice energy, is a totally different energy and ball game that we will now have to move through in order to learn the lessons. So what lessons are we talking about? Let's break it down. First of all, Cancer is a water season. When we encounter water, we know that it's going to be highly emotional. We know that it's going to be highly intuitive. We know that it's going to be very transformational, and we know that there's going to be a lot of healing. Now, from that, we must be able at this particular point in time to have the emotional intelligence to say that in order for healing to take place, pain and suffering has to be illuminated. In order for there to be emotions and insight, intuitive insight, there has to be situations that pop off in order to trigger said emotions, trigger said insight. We have to understand that when we're in a water season, that is always spiritually cleansing. that we have to bring things full circle in order to actually have these aha moments, see the layers of the onion of our spiritual lessons pulled back in order for us to get to the root, the middle of what the pain, what the suffering, what the lesson in our experience was actually meant to teach us. So Cancer season, represented by the crab. A crab looks pretty crabby, looks pretty scary. It's got a very kind of tough exterior, a scary exterior, if you will. The tough shell of the crab is merely the face, the front, that we put on in order to protect our ooey gooey center, which just happens to be the emotions that we're sitting in due to our wounded inner child. The Cancer energy is ruled over by the moon, Mother Moon. The Cancer energy, although very nurturing in the mother role, becomes that nurturing mother role because of the wounds that the inner child has experienced and suffered, and therefore our adult egoic selves are trying to protect and defend the inner, raw, vulnerable feelings of what our inner child experienced and are still very triggered and activated about. Cancer season pulls us back. It pulls us inward. There's a lot of inner reflection that needs to happen. So much so that we tend to be a little bit nostalgic in Cancer season, looking back, almost having a tendency to paint our past with happier colors than what they were originally painted in. This is where we take a good look at the home, at the family, at the generational trauma and the generational strengths that have been bestowed upon us in our DNA. Cancer season tends to pop off the home and the family dynamic for good reason. Boundaries are being tested. Boundaries need to be tested in order for us to learn our own worth. There's usually a lot of mama drama with the feminine divine energy through Cancer season because this particular energy has, under a lot of conditioning, felt that putting oneself at the top of the list is the wrong thing to do. Cancer energy has a stereotypical high probability of putting ourselves so freaking low on the totem pole, putting other people's wants, needs, and desires before our own, that then we kind of accumulate guilt and shame and resentment because we are not first on anyone's list, not even our own. Boundaries need to be tested in order for us to learn our worth. In the home and in the family dynamic, there's usually situations that pop off in order for us to get triggered and activated on what it is that we're defending, what it is that we need to protect, what it is that we have to create and implement as far as boundaries go, in order for us to maintain a safe haven for ourselves to feel safe, secure, stable in, to nurture ourselves and those that we love back to a place of health and healing. There is a lot going on in Cancer season. We have to understand that because the sun is illuminating the Cancer energy, that what sits in the dark is the Capricorn energy, the quote unquote father of the zodiac, if you will. This is where, again, we get another lesson in where it is that we have to balance said energies. The moon, mother, right? We have to balance the mothering, nurturing energies. There's a lot of toxicity that can come up when we explore the home and the family dynamic and the roles and the responsibilities that the mother role has put upon us and the mother role in which we have all accepted. I am not just speaking about the female body, the female role. We all have feminine and masculine divine energies in us. We all have a mother. We all have a mother wound. We all have motherly and nurturing qualities and characteristics within us that we have to take a good look at. Here's the thing. Cancer season, because we're coming out of Gemini season. It was an air energy. We were emotionally detached in order to act as the observer and analyze from our mental perspective. Now we're doing a deep dive into our heart space. It's a water energy. We have to see what's kind of going on just below the surface. We have to take a good look at what it is that we've been ignoring as far as healing our inner child, healing those inner wounds, healing the cracks in the foundation of our lives that we were just hoping would mend themselves. We have to recognize where it is that we ourselves have put ourselves so freaking low down on the list of importance that why would we expect to be at the top of the list of anybody else's list when we don't even put ourselves at the top of our own list? We are going to receive a lot of intuitive insight. We are just in the stage of the game, especially with the solstice energy, really blasting open this doorway for us to move into our unconscious and emotional realms. We have to figure out what makes us feel safe, what makes us feel secure, what makes us feel at home, even when we aren't feeling like this is home. Speaking to my star seeds now, okay? Earth will never feel like home, but we have to find the qualities, the characteristics, what could provide us with safety, stability, and a home-like feel while we are away from our original home. We will see a lot of storylines pop off that will show us either A, where it is that we've been failing to tend to our own wounds, to tend to nurturing our own selves back to a place of health and stability, or B, where it is that we've been failing the people that we love in providing them with the safety, the security, the love, the nurturing that they crave. This is going to be an emotional time. Emotions are running deep. We can very much get lost in the ocean of emotion, and we have to do our best to not only keep our head above water, but we have to surrender to the very different energies, the very different wave patterns, if you will, of the ocean of emotion that we are currently surrendering and having to float through. We have to pay attention, although we do in the daily energy forecast. We mostly focus on the moon because the moon is a luminary that is the most frequent movement that really fine tunes our emotion. And not saying that we don't pay attention to the moon, but because the moon rules over Cancer season, the moon's aspects are going to be super important to pay attention to. It's going to help us through this healing chapter. It's going to help us unpack our shadow selves. It's going to help unpack the inner child wounds that we have to pay attention to. This particular energy makes us kind of not want to grow up. Okay, this is like Peter Pan syndrome, if you will. We're so nostalgic, we're so reflective, we're so stuck in romanticizing the past in a way that it never even happened in, that we tend to want to disconnect from the here and now and the roles and responsibilities that come along with it in our current lives. We tend to not want to grow up. We tend to not want to take responsibility because the inner child is asking more of us right now than our adult egoic selves. We have to strike a balance. That's the only way that we're going to A, heal our inner child wounds, and B, be the person that we needed as a child. Okay? That is the whole point. Becoming the person that you really could have needed when you were a child. This is a full circle, emotional and an intellectual aha moment that we will take the whole of Cancer season in order to actually bring forth. This is a time when we are really going to want to watch how our relationships are kind of dependent on one another. Again, one of the qualities and characteristics of a Cancer is to distract oneself from one's own want, needs, desires, and wounds by thinking that putting other people first and taking care of other people and putting other people's best interests at heart is somehow going to heal you. That is a false lie, okay? That is a falsity. We cannot throw ourselves into other people's realms of existence and expect the energy that we pour into them to actually heal our own wounds. We have to understand that codependency is a big deal. It's going to be highlighted under Cancer season, and we have to do our best to cut the cord in those relationships so that they are free to have their own experiences, that we are not interrupting their karma. And in turn, we have the freedom, we have the space, we have the time to do the work on ourselves. This is going to be a time when we really need to get down to the nitty-gritty on what it is that we find comfort in our physical realms, in our emotional realms, in our personal relationships. This is definitely a time to rearrange, reorganize, restructure not only our home life, not only the relationships in it, but the relationship with ourselves, the relationship with our inner child, and the relationship from the inner child into the adult version of who it is that we now are, that we really could have needed as a kid growing up, that many of us are still working on in the here and now. So what's interesting is that we got a lot of energy going on throughout Cancer season. Just as this solstice energy opens up, just as we dip our toe into the ocean of emotion in Cancer season, we are also just experiencing the last quarter moon in Pisces at 29 degrees, which is a very big deal. It definitely illuminates for us what isn't working, what it is that we've outgrown, what it is we no longer want to experience in order to cut the cord with certain aspects of ourselves, of people, places, roles, and things in order to free us up to start new. The moon moves into Aries energy. This is the first sign of the zodiac. This is where we get a spark. This is where we get passion. This is where we get desire. This is where we emotionally come to life again. We're gifted with the opportunity of this Aries moon to open up the solstice gateway, to open up Cancer season. And not even 24 hours later that we enter into Cancer season, we have the goddess Venus, the goddess of love and beauty and worth and pleasure, moving out of her place of power in Taurus and moving into Gemini, where we need to open up our minds. We need to open up our hearts. We need to experiment. We need to dabble in new ideas, new topics, new themes. We have to put ourselves out there, connect with new people. Again, we're in an experimentation phase from now until August. This is when the party gets started. Of course, in June, we still have Neptune to go retrograde. So again, Neptune, dreams, intuition, higher self, creativity, inspiration, the higher realms of intelligence, going retrograde, knocking the sweet rose-colored glasses off of our pretty little faces in order for us to get real and deal with what is in front of us instead of what we wish was in front of us. We have that new moon in Cancer at 7 degrees on the same day that Neptune goes retrograde. And moving into July, we're going to have some super sensitive aspects, not only with Chiron, the wounded healer, especially in this Cancer energy. We can expect salt to be rubbed in the wounds that definitely need our attention first and foremost. We have a lot of aspects popping off with the odor planets. Uranus, which eventually will be going retrograde as well, the Great Awakener. Saturn, who is also retrograde, the Lord of Karma. We have aspects with the true node popping off, trying to show us where it is that we're taking a couple of steps forward based off of the healing that we've done in the past. We have a lot of energy building up with the sun in Cancer in conjunction with Mercury once Mercury moves into Cancer. And let me tell you, that is going to be a hella emotional time with loads of psychic insight and emotional and intuitive insight coming in for us to play with, to experiment with, to move forward. And let me just say that by the time that we're at those final degrees of this Cancer season, we're going to have a direct opposition, a direct confrontation, a direct sitting across the table from Pluto, who is retrograde in Capricorn. This is about power and authority over our emotional realm. This is about turning our past pain, especially in the family lineage, into a sense of power. We are taking the darkness of our childhood and turning it into a light source for our adulthood. We are essentially being pressurized in this emotional ocean pressure cooker on coming out of this season with more emotional control, more emotional intelligence, more of a foundation under our feet, more of a safe haven in our home, in our relationships, in our family dynamics that will provide us with the safety, the security, the stability, the encouragement that we need to feel safe in the here and now while we're building towards something new. This is going to be a highly emotional time. Emotions aren't a bad thing. Emotions are our inner compass on how it is that we evolve our soul, how it is that we reach the fullest potential of our current human avatars. That's why we're here. That's why we have emotions. And I know you hear me often say that you have to feel what it is that you have to heal. Well, let me tell you that even the most dissociative person in the world right now will not be able to move through Cancer season without being emotionally triggered, without having to do some reflective inner child work in order to gain more perspective, more insight, more emotional control and intelligence over the adult version in the here and now. So with that being said, grab your pool noodle, put your floaties on, grab a life jacket, and dive into the deep end. Putting your toe into cold ass water is going to send chills up your body. It is going to tell your brain that this may not be the smartest thing to do. The best thing that you can do is submerge your body in the water, in the emotional ocean, all at once. Let the shock take over your system so that you can acclimatize and that you can adjust to the temperature of the ocean at one swift movement. And then you can just lay back, float, surrender to the emotions that come up, and just remember that anything that is popping off is not happening to you, it's happening for you.